Gary, I see you're in the back there. Definitely, you might try reconnecting and seeing if the permissions got slipped or something. Still says devices are not connected, and I can't add you to the stage here until, and I won't be able to hear you either until I can see your devices connected. Okay, Amazon. We just bounced off of a pivot point here. Looking like we're already starting to head back up again. We'll see whether or not it's able to maintain that. Obviously, it's anybody's game at this point. Google with a similar price pattern. Oracle. Palantir. This one here is minimizing down. You can see that energy build up as that trend line is providing resistance. Nvidia, though, starting to give some pressure. Bears are giving pressure to the trend line right now. This is the 4-hour chart, so by the end of the day, we'll know whether or not it's able to maintain that. It's also coinciding with that line there. I'm going to go ahead and change the color of this one. Japanese markets pressed upwards, created that new high there yesterday morning around 9 o'clock in the morning. The yen continuing to climb here over the last little while. Well, USD yen. It's becoming more expensive for the Japanese. Makes sense though. We have that trend of oil at these higher prices. That's what really set this off. So oil prices turning downwards. Even yesterday, futures were being sold at a huge rate. The future markets were, they pulled that price down pretty hard, and still again today. UK oil. This is the Brent crude oil. Price action's a little bit different. More people pay attention to the WTI because the dominance of the dollar still has its hold on people's attention. This one here, we've got the Dow Jones with a little bit of a pullback here this morning. You can see within the last, what was this? Yeah, that was at 7 o'clock in the morning. Probably even halfway, yep. So just as the markets were opening, a lot of bearish activity. Moving on to silver and gold, we have broke out of that trend line like we talked about last week. Oh, that's almost 2 weeks ago already when it broke out. And then we found it was getting that energy buildup was occurring again right down to the wire. We seem to be still consolidating the high that we experienced in silver prices on May the 24th. This was just the first thing on the morning of the markets in Asia. Came up to test that previous high and it failed. So it doesn't mean that it will go down, but it failed to beat the previous high. So from a technical analysis perspective, we have that likelihood of a continuation. However, this trend line does have a lot of dominance, and we are in a very different time, having a greater and greater demand on precious metals when we go into tech. Now, the price could come down and possibly even retest some of these prices down here. I mean, the manipulation knows no bounds. So, we might see prices come back down into the 60s. But you know, it's a consolidation right now. There's no way of knowing for sure. I see the timing of things as being very optimistic in the long term. That possibility of it going on sale does exist. Uh, it's, the market's always right because in the end, that's where the money is made and or lost. Gold prices consolidating as well, following that trend line all the way from March, beginning of March. Gold silver ratio still on an average continuing to decline. Bitcoin against gold. I'm going to be following this a little bit more as we head into this next phase of the Great Reset. And the reason why is because gold, of course, will provide a greater base, a higher weight in value, meaning that it will maintain its capacity to buy things no matter what the other currencies do. And because the digital migration is going along swimmingly well, I would say, for the technocrats, Bitcoin is going to be a good one to follow to see how that wealth is actually measuring up with gold. And so this chart is going to be a part of our regular checks. As we see right now, we have a trend that has formed, I would say, right along this line here. We can see how much resistance and support this line has provided. Most recently, we see this trend line here. Is that right? Yeah, that's a point. That's a point. Look at that. It's always interesting to see, where do these lines go? Where is that resistance and support commonly found? And there is a nice, they call that a fan, I think. I don't usually cross lines like that, but it is a very distinct crossing that occurs when the price broke out here at the this was in September of 2020, where the value of Bitcoin went up against gold 5 times, 565%. That swing in value coincided with that cross of that trend line right there. Very interesting. Bitcoin dominance. Got a little bit of a jolt there over that. Oh, yeah, no, that's right. We're back to the 4-hour chart. It got a little bit of a jolt here, bouncing off of that major support from 58.3. Peaked out, it seems, at 61.34. It did beat out the previous high. This is not a price action chart, though, so we just have to be mindful that it doesn't necessarily mean that we have created a new trend. However, it is good to see just where those pivot points occur, because those give us patterns. That is a significant line right there. I'm going to go ahead and tap that. Dum, da, da, dum. We're also in another one at the moment. Yeah, there's a few in there. Yeah, there's a few in there. I'm going to say that one's probably more strong. But this is a point of interest. You can see even in the past how much the dominance swung around at 61 and 61.4, 61.5. Very interesting. Moving on to Bitcoin against the US dollar. Zooming out, we were talking about this, how we actually have a full on reversal now. No, this is Bitcoin. I was thinking of the US 30 where we did that, where we showed that we're now looking for an extension on this. We have A, B, and C for retracement, already looking to form D because we did beat out that previous high at B. So we had to update the gold prices and all that because now we're creating new highs following the price up. That's where, yeah, that's an important development. Is that yesterday we punched out above that previous high. Into Bitcoin against the US dollar, we're seeing this C mark, that retracement. Yeah, this is a pretty significant level here. We'll see as it goes. It might very well have a little bit of a pullback, 10% or so, to retest this trend line. Let's see where it heads next. This is a major area. I'm going to mark this differently. Use a box because it's a significant area. Oh, I already marked it. I missed that. But I will keep the beige one. There we go. All right. Ethereum. I like watching how my squiggles unfold. As you can see, it was not an up and a down. It stayed consistent with that the whole time. And now it is below my prediction. But it is, however, still above the previous low. Oh, it's hard to say. I feel like when there's a crisis, that we're going to see a lot of liquidity vanish out of cryptos. People panic, that kind of thing happens. So, yeah, when it comes to that, I feel like something like Canada, Canada is globally very much an enemy of humanity. And so I believe that they very well would have every reason to have the World Cup, which is there's a World Cup series. The first phase of the World Cup is that's it. There's a bunch of games in Toronto. I think that in Toronto, it would be just the perfect place, the perfect country to have a super spreader event. We've been getting the programming language talking about the hantavirus. It would be amazing if they just nailed it right then and there. The super spreader event. Oh, look what the soccer tournaments did. Nobody's allowed to play soccer anymore. Shelter in place. Let's go watch Space Jam and you'll see exactly what I mean. Isn't that crazy? Space Jam was a movie that literally explained what I just described. Okay, moving on. ADA bouncing down at the lows. Time to buy. It's on sale. Midnight also bouncing off of some lows, but now also coming up to the trend line. As it extends across, that trend line gets closer and closer. XRP bouncing off of the lows that we haven't seen, well, consistently. That's a major pivot point for sure. From November 2024. BitTensor consolidating since its rise after we had that news about Nvidia partnering up with BitTensor. Price went up quite steeply. Even for cryptos, that's a pretty good movement of 87% in a period of 2 weeks. Been consolidating ever since, looking to find a center line to that volatility. Fetch looking like today it's breaking out. On the 4-hour chart specifically, it looks very positive in that it's breaking out above that trend line. It is going to face some resistance. It's at a pivot point right now. Polygon also consolidating. Desync bouncing off of some all-time lows, just above 8/10 of a cent for one token. Oh my gosh, can you imagine people who are investing in this now? Their data will be worth so much. Wow. Cpool. This is Clearpool, real world assets. Getting into the world of DePIN, decentralized physical infrastructure network. Cool company that's wanting to tokenize people's hardware. So if you've got a computer that can run a node for Clearpool, that is also a treasury of data in which you are a contributor. That grows. Superverse bouncing at some close to lows. We've got a few more pivot points to drop to get to the lowest, but sitting at 11.73 cents right now. Non-playable coin. You know, it's been lower, but it's held this shelf quite well. Distinctly. This recent breakout of that 4-hour chart, oh no, that's the daily chart. That recent breakout is encouraging. See whether or not it can maintain it. If it dips below, you know, I do see there being another drop down to possibly 3.5 tenths of a cent. SPX 6900 bouncing off some lows recently from February. It looks like it's continuing to climb up. And I have to say that because I can't say what it's going to do. Not allowed. It's called insider trading if I'm telling you something's going to happen. However, the likelihood of this continuing to rise is strong. This is a major support area. And although we have reached a new low here, this new high that we just saw form on the 10th of May is encouraging because of how much higher it went than the previous high. And at the same time, going up above this point of resistance / support, this pivot point. Encouraging. And I think that does it for market analysis. I got nothing else. Gary, I know that you and I are meeting up later on, if I remember correctly, 2 hours. Let me just see here. Oh yeah, it was 2 hours. Like in an hour now. Hopefully you can get your device working there though. I'm not seeing you. I'm going to end the stream. I'll end the stream. I'll still hang out here, Gary, and you feel free to keep on testing things out.